That's what I think is happening. I
right.
believe we are live, and we're back. We're here in the. It's the pre-stream. Hey everybody, who's familiar with the pre-stream? Yeah, it says live. It says we're good. We're good. How do we play? Okay, board games. We're gonna play the pre-stream game, the game we always do to sort of warm up the stream and get everybody ready for the thing. What are we doing today? It's high jump and the Paris Marathon.
Okay.
All right, so just touch all the things.
Touch all the things. I
have to say,
I'm good at touching things.
Okay, all right. I had to say, square is not my favorite pull, given the things that we have to do here today.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
They can hear us. We're live. I knew it was fine. Amabel, what are you freaking out for? I told you it was gonna be fine.
Wait, what? I didn't freak. No one has freaked out.
What's it like down there under the bus?
Wait, why am I under a bus?
Because never mind.
Sometimes you confuse me.
Yeah. That's feedback I've received before.
Do you enjoy that?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said no. I do. It is a little fun.
Okay.
So yeah, hey everybody, how's it going? We're here just getting ready for the thing. Getting ready for the stream. I hope everybody's expectations are appropriately managed. Hey Nick, hey Stephanie. Hey everybody.
How many? Wait, this is not the blue triangle. This is the.
Sorry, could you say what?
This is.
No, this is the white card. Yeah, this is the white triangle card.
Okay, so I will get that other triangle.
That other triangle is coming. Yeah.
Okay.
It is here. It is mandatory. There must be triangle.
All right.
My line scoring is garbage. Also, I've only been awake for like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the reason. Oh no, last station before I was really hoping we were going to draw some more cards because I've only been in 2 regions with this. Well, 3, I guess. So like the question is, am I better off going down here to pick up a 4th region for 5 more points on the line, or do I need to make this connection for potentially more multi-scoring? You know what? I think I gotta add another region to that line. The scoring for it is already very sad. I did way too much screwing around. This is gonna be a not very good score, I think. Pretty sure that's where we're living.
I'm sure your score is going to be better than mine.
I am not as sure. But this corner is awfully handy.
We've been doing how many streams? How many streams have we done?
1.
Okay. And of those streams, how many times have I won?
I'm comfortable guessing all of them. Do you think that is correct?
I don't think either of your answers are correct. Okay.
That's weird. It's almost like I'm not trying. It's almost like I'm not even trying to be correct. Can you imagine such a thing?
From you, sweetheart? No, I could never.
No, it's incomprehensible. So I've been thinking that it would be good probably at some point to start playing a different role in right.
Yeah.
I don't have any strong plans for that, but I just want to get a little bit of variety, a little bit of variance,
Yeah. Oh, how about next station London?
I didn't want to do it this week because we got a thing and also we didn't plan for it, but it is something I would like to do eventually.
Okay.
we're gonna double up on a thing in this region. Okay, cool.
Oh, that's a very sweet thing to say, Stephanie. Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm not paying attention. I'm missing the sweet thing.
Oh no, it was about me. So
Okay.
if I see something about you, I'll definitely let you know.
All right, fair enough.
Okay, actually, I could.
I am really hoping that we do not draw the Pentagon next. It would be very sick and tight if we could draw that other wild card first. Because look at all the monuments I can hit. All right, well, if we're only going to get... I think I should probably hit this. So I don't have to try to wind my way up there into the corner with the next one. My line scoring there was better. Still not good, but it was better.
Yeah.
I got a little too ambitious. I spread out in too many directions, I think. All right, I'm like approximately halfway on my monument goal at this point. How you doing over there?
It's gonna be. Oh no, I don't want to do that.
I do. I do hate that we pulled both of the Pentagons so quickly. That's actually very problematic for me because I was planning to wind my way down into that bottom left corner, and now that this is the last wild too. There is no longer a way to get into that corner. Do I want to take, since this is the last wild, do I want to use it to take this overhead? I think so. This feels bad.
I'm doing a terrible job.
I should not do that. That is not the right play. Probably. I'm trying to figure out, like, I need to get some stuff accomplished over here. We still have circle, square for sure, and then a bunch of other stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's actually very difficult. We drew cards in a bad order here. All right, let's take the square to finally connect to that monument. And then I only have to cross one more overhead. It is theoretically possible for us to get circle then square. Like I could connect to here. I could wait on this and then connect to here, or even reach across and then come down. No, let's just do it the safe way. Okay, good thing I did it the safe way. All right, one monument, one overhead crossing. I'm probably going to get there on my goals, but everything else about my score is going to be very bad.
I need 2 more monuments. I don't see how I'm doing this.
Let's hit the corner.
Well, actually.
Oh, I'll take it. We're just going to the corner. The corner of goal completion. Well, hey, welcome, Pristine Mess. How's it going? How's your Sunday? It's Sunday everywhere, right? How does Earth work? All right, Amabel, I'm goals complete. I'm gonna score like 160 points or something. How did I get so bad at games? Do you remember when we used to think I was good at games?
Sweetie.
Do you remember this time? Yeah.
Yeah, sweetie. I don't think I've ever scored 160 points, so that's kind of rubbing it in a little bit.
Sorry. You have absolutely scored. Hold on. No. This is weirdly revisionist history, but in like the wrong direction. You're not revising history correctly. You're supposed to puff yourself up, make your accomplishments more impressive. Gosh, what is the most productive way to reach out of the center? I like. It might be to just go down here.
Wait, how would I get there? Gosh.
Is there such a thing as a bad draw if everyone draws the same hand? I think so. I think we're all in this together. And so we can commiserate on a terrible outcome. I think that's okay. I think that's a way of understanding the world. I haven't been very focused on like my line scoring. I've been thinking too hard about the nodes and not hard enough about the graph. You know?
No.
Oh.
I don't.
Well, it's happening. Whether you know about it or not, that's what's occurring. So what's my juicy region? I have 1, 2, 3, 4 here, and also
I'm just
1, 2, 3, 4 here. So I guess like this is actually a fairly valuable play.
I was one of the monuments shy.
Okay, you know what? I'll say this: 183 is not my favorite score, but in a day where the highest scoring person only got a 216, it's really not that bad.
Yeah, and my 141 isn't bad for me. You know, and also I think I don't know.
I can't tell. Are you trying to like do a damning myself with faint praise thing, or like Amabel? You're always so mean to Amabel.
I'm not being mean to Amabel.
This is the thing about you that I've always found baffling. Why would you be mean to Amabel when she's so obviously amazing? When
I'm not being mean. Just I know my skill level.
She's incredible. I love her so much.
You're very sweet.
Thank you. A lot of people find me incredibly annoying, so I really appreciate that. Okay, so hey everybody, hey, how's it going? Here's what we're doing today. Let me talk a little bit about what's... I apologize, Isolan. That's... ExStreamVaganza is... When I typed it, I felt bad, but I was like, it's so ugly that I can't not put it into the world.
No, that makes sense.
Everyone needs to suffer the way I am suffering right now.
I see someone asking just the Amabel gets therapy stream. Amabel was in therapy. Amabel is better than she ever was before.
And in a certain way, all of my time with Amabel is Amabel gets therapy time. I'm going to shower this woman with love until she understands it. Okay, so here's basically the idea. I have not done a Game of the Year video for the last 2 years of games, and there are a couple of reasons for that. But one of the really major reasons is just I get in my head about it and I want to make it like a big production, and because I keep scope creeping and having new ideas and throwing out old ideas, the video is an ever-moving target. It's always like 2 months in the distance, no matter what. In the ADHD community, we sometimes refer to this as an IBNU. A thing becomes... People with ADHD are great at doing things that are urgent. If something must be done, that's the most likely thing to get done. That's I can direct my focus to a thing that is urgent. If I'm currently bleeding, I can figure out how to get to urgent care, you know? But stuff that is important, but not in a right now kind of way, important but not urgent, has a tendency to do this thing where it's like, okay, well, I will get to that. I have stuff that has to get done right now. The important but not urgent thing, IBNU, will just get put on the back burner and we'll finish the most important thing. And then you take the most important thing off the front burner and then there's a new most important thing. And the IBNU just sits on the back burner forever, for years. They just get trapped in this forever space. And what I decided to do with the the game of the year thing to get it off my plate. Amabel knows I've been working on this since the beginning of the year. I've been trying to like figure out a way to get these things done, and it kept happening. I kept having ideas. It kept scope creeping, and so finally I decided, actually, no, fuck it, no prep, no work goes into it at all. Just say it. Just say the things. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to just say the things and deliver the ideas that I had, the thoughts that I had, and not make it a project for myself that I'm going to drag out for all of forever. I'm working really hard. This is a therapy thing for me. Working really hard on sort of clearing out my ib news. And I've done a lot of them. With Amabel's help, I've done a lot of the important stuff. Like, I finally got new glasses, which is a thing that's needed to be done for a decade. In case anybody was curious, like, when I say things stick around forever, how long is forever? Well, it's like a decade. It's like a decade.
You look very cute with your new glasses, by the way.
Thank you. I like.
And also, you can see.
I like them. Also, I can
see
see. My old glasses were very not the right prescription. Apologies for the little audio file that just kicked through the game. Dev has absolutely institutionalized ADHD. People who are good at computer science have ADHD at staggering rates. It's incredible. So yeah, before we really get going today, I do want to just say, how do I do this? Here we go. Here's the thing. This is the backing track we're using for today. It's another piece from TheRelaxedMovement, who make Creative Commons music for streamers and video people. This one, the December edition, because I always wish it was winter.
You do, yes.
The person who runs this channel, they do good work. Also, it's really hard to find royalty-free music on YouTube where the person actually created the music instead of quote-unquote curating. I spent a while looking last night. I told myself that was the effort I was going to allow, was I was gonna find a piece of music. And yeah, there were so many that it was just like, this is a 10-hour video that is a 90-second piece from the YouTube audio library that I looped until it was 12 hours long. That is a real example, by the way. So anyway, let's get into the thing, shall we? First of all, we're gonna start with 2020 something. 22?
2022.
2022 is how long ago? Jesus. Okay. So, Game of the Year list for 2022. I did the thing just kind of out of habit. I did make a 10-game list for each year. And I do want to talk about them a little bit. This first one I have sort of weird feelings about. So let me talk to you, Amabel.
Okay.
Conversationally, we're gonna try to work this out a little bit. I'm starting up the game. We're gonna play a little bit of this one. We're not gonna play each of them. We don't have time for that, but I am starting up this one. So the music's gonna fade out. I think I probably talked to you about this game a little bit, at least. This is Hardspace Shipbreaker. I'm not trying to be coy about it. I had some problems with Hardspace Shipbreaker. And when I finished playing it, right at the moment when I finished playing it, I was kind of annoyed with it, if I could be honest. I don't know if this should be disqualifying or whatever, but like, in case you're unfamiliar, Hardspace Shipbreaker is a game about being a spaceship salvager. You work in a salvage yard, you cut up spaceships, and you cut up spaceships and you salvage the parts. It's actually very fun. The plot of this game is a pro-union narrative. It is about unionizing to, not let your bosses take advantage of you. And you would probably think, hey, that sounds like extremely your shit. And it is in theory. I had a lot of problems with the specific execution of it, and I think that the way they integrate the gameplay into the storytelling is really, really clumsy. My biggest problem with the story, honestly, is that they represent capitalism as too kind of a foe. Like, playing the game, you actually are able to work your debt down without unionizing. You would still get independently wealthy doing the job, which, first of all, is not how it works. And secondly, they way underplay the threat that the company poses. I mean, we are out here living on company air, right? But the company never threatens the kind of violence, not even sci-fi violence, but just like the kind of violence that, was used against United States workers within the last century, trying to fight for workers' rights. And I really thought that was kind of shitty. And also a lot of the writing is like pretty mediocre to bad. And they do a lot of just making you sit around and listen to messages in your hab pod instead of playing them over the speakers in your suit while you're working. There's a lot of sitting around and listening to not very good dialogue, and it gets more annoying because you're not able to play the fun game.
Yeah, Andra's in the comments and says it's a brilliant spaceship salvaging game tied to the most dumb as rocks narrative. And I remember you showing me some of it where you had to sit there and wait, and because you were playing this on your channel. I mean, 2022 was the year that you and I started associating.
Sure.
So like I remember you showing me some of this.
We started dating for a pretty queer standard definition of date.
Yeah.
And the queers in the audience know what that means. So you can see here on my scope, I'm looking around and you see all these little green squares next to the compartments and stuff. Mm-hmm. That means that this whole thing is pressurized. There is atmosphere in here. And that's not great because I'm going to be carving this thing up into tiny little pieces and exposing it to the void. So I'm going to try to find a way to vent the atmo here before we get too deep in. Where's the atmosphere regulator in this fucking thing? But so at the end of this series, it definitely was not a thing I was thinking about Game of the Year wise. But what I'm doing right now is what's called a cutter's race. Basically, they have like a weekly ship where they give you a couple of here we go, systems. They give you a couple of special objectives to score on. You can see the task list there on the side of the screen.
Okay.
And I found myself coming back. Like, I kept being like, after I was done with the plot, this is very irresponsible. I'm just kind of opening this compartment because my plan here is to make a hole. I don't know if this is the best way to do this, but it's a way to do it. That's 36.
You kept coming back to it.
Yeah, I kept coming back to it. All right. I'm gonna blow the canopy. I kept coming back to it because I was like, without all of the like storyline stuff and the sitting and the waiting and the listening to the dialogue around it, like the gameplay is really, really fun, and I would very much like to do more of that. And I think that makes a really strong argument for it as like if the thing about a Game of the Year is the game and not the like kind of, what's the word I want here? The extraneous stuff around it. Mm-hmm. Like, isn't that a pretty strong endorsement? Isn't the fact that I find myself a game that I was honestly annoyed by, I find myself like coming back week after week and being like, okay, but can I get a little more though? Could I get a little more though?
Yeah, there's something that compels, and this is one of the things, because there are games where the theme or the message or the plot is very tightly integrated with the mechanics, in games where it's less so.
Yeah.
And we can still enjoy those games even. Like, there's a game I love playing, but it's completely adverse to my politics. And that's Super Mario Brothers. You're restoring a monarch? That's gross. I hate that. I hate that so much. But it's a fun game.
I can hear how proud of yourself you are. So to be clear here, what I'm doing, there are basically like 3 different bins that the different parts go in depending on what they are. There's the barge down there for complicated things, especially electronics. There's the processor over there for the larger pieces of refined metals. And then there's the furnace over there for the rest of the stuff. And when I mouse over a piece of the ship, you can see it has the big glowing box that says where it goes. This piece goes in the processor.
Okay.
So I'm pulling out a lot of valuable computer stuff here in the front sort of corridor of this ship. This is not probably the best way to do this, but what I'm trying to do is I'm going to flush a lot of the atmosphere out of the ship through its front window. Little bit by little bit, and I want the computer equipment to get out of here before that happens, because a lot of shit's going to fly into this hallway, and I don't want to break these pieces. They're valuable.
Jasper is in the comments saying it's not the same, but they get massive viscera cleanup detail vibes from the gameplay. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that. Yeah. So it's this is like a trend in gaming, like over the last few years, these games that are basically like scut work. You got your viscera cleanup detail, your power washing simulator, etc. Games where you do like simple but sort of like of themselves satisfying tasks that would probably be considered kind of low grade work you would not be happy to have in the real world, but with all the ugly stuff, with all the gross parts taken off, all the physically unpleasant parts taken off, it turns out they're actually pretty fun.
Okay. No, I get that.
And accomplishing lots of little goals, it is satisfying to the human brain.
Mm-hmm.
So there are people who would argue. We're gonna talk a little bit about something conceptual. This is why I thought it would be okay for me to play this game during this part, because this is gonna take a second.
Okay.
Also, just like moving around in space is fun. I'm doing a bad job of shopping this ship, and I knew I would be because I'm focusing on talking. Some people would tell you that, in fact, the Mario game is not about restoring a monarchy, because at no point during playing the Mario game do you do anything that is restoring a monarchy. Some people would tell you that the mechanics of a game are actually its story, and Mario is a game about jumping on turtles, not a game about saving a princess.
All right. That's also wrong. It's also wrong to jump on turtles. But actually, I think about this a lot. It's actually something that is in the book.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, the brilliant book that Amabel wrote that's going to be available from your local publishers soon.
At some point, yeah. I actually just finally turned it over to the publisher along with the book cover this week. So, but the idea I come to it with is the idea that mechanisms are metaphors.
Mm-hmm.
They're a part of the language of the form that we use to express things, and the argument that things need to be expressed solely through the mechanics without the thing the mechanics represents is sorry, people are doing a Blade Runner riff in the comments, so I
hooray, good work, chat. I am not aware of the riff, but I stand in favor of it. I want you to know.
The turtle is on the ground. You're jumping on it. Why is that? But the idea is that you don't ask the words in a book to have meaning just through their sounds and letters. The words represent something, and so do the mechanisms. Like,
okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I feel like the plot of is very easy to break my concentration. So good job, Chad. I think that I get what you mean. You're not, but in that you are. I think the plot of a game does still matter. And I feel like...
All right, I'm going to do something crazy here. I'm just going to cook this entire wall out of the ship.
Okay.
I did catch my arm on fire a little bit. Okay. My cutter is not quite up to the task of getting through this wall, it would seem. Hold on, I can do this.
Because, like, I mean, you've played some shooter games, right?
I have.
Like, first-person shooter games. And, like, there are games where you shoot demons. And mechanically, it might not be all that different from games where you shoot people. But it sure does feel different.
There it is. Okay. All right.
Nick says, yo, don't cook my wall.
All right, so I took this... one thing I just did, the sharp-eyed viewers will have noticed, is I took the coolant out of the ECU. Everybody's familiar with this, of course. Basic spaceship design. And I did that because it is one step in engineering a particular kind of reactor meltdown. When we take the reactor off of the reactor seating plate, it's gonna freak out and try to explode. There's not really any avoiding that. That's just physics. But if we disengage the coolant, remove all the coolant. Oh, hey, I'm almost out of O2. That's not great for me, person who famously loves breathing.
We have a comment from Stephanie that I think in the narratively best games, the plot and the mechanics as metaphor work to say the same things. And I agree.
Absolutely.
You know, and certainly ludonarrative dissonance is a thing.
So the company makes you purchase, purchase more oxygen and purchase more fuel from them. Company scripts, you get the idea, right?
So I mean, they have some bits of, like you said, it feels like it's too like the fact that you can win, basically.
Yeah,
you can win capitalism. That's wrong. That's just wrong. That's not how it works.
Anyway, digression from a digression from a digression. Removing the coolant from the ECU. Shut off the coolant flow to the reactor, and then disengaging the thrusters will cause the reactor to start melting down in the slowest possible way.
Okay.
Which will give me time to get it out of there and into the cooling stasis environment of the barge before it explodes, killing me horribly. But we must be very cautious when doing so, and we really don't have a lot of time to move it out. So I'm going to try to cut... Before I disengage the thrusters, I'm going to try to cut a big enough hole in the ship that I can quickly pull the reactor out and send it to the barge. Also, this game has a nice, sort of acoustic guitar banjo soundtrack, which is, for a lot of nerds, just kind of like what outer space is supposed to sound like. That's an American thing, I reckon.
Yeah.
As you can see, I got these plates. Now that they're disconnected from the ship, I am carving out my my passage for the reactor. You just send them to the processor, and the processor consumes them. And we don't think too hard about the physics of what's going on there. So yeah, this game, it has... I have a lot of feelings about, ludonarrative dissonance and whatnot, because I do feel like a lot of games, and especially games in the AAA space, they're not particularly interested in having their game and their mechanics and their story be doing things together at all.
Are they interested in the gameplay at all? It's more of a question.
One might argue not so much. Aha, this piece is not actually free yet. There we go.
Credits transferred.
Did that resolve that? It's still not floating free. Oh, I see why. This is the piece that's like around the nose cone of the ship. Alright, that's fine. We're just gonna try to pull this piece forward. These tethers exert some pulling force. We'll see if we can get that to come loose. Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that like every game can only be about whatever it is that you do in the gameplay. I think that that's a thing you should be going for. I think it's a thing that's worth trying. But I understand the actual reality of it. It's not always available as an option. It would be very limiting to the sorts of things games could be about.
Yes.
So you can see all these angry red lights because the coolant supply is fucked. The ship's mad. The ship's mad that I've been down here doing this to it. Alright, I need to get a wall off of the reactor chamber, so we're just going to cook some of these structural members.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it is very important to be careful in space when cutting, using heat to disintegrate large objects near an active reactor. That's the advice that I would give you, is to be cautious in that situation. Alright. That didn't work. What are you still attached to? Oh, I think, okay. So I'm trying to cut this stuff at an angle where there's no backscatter. I'm trying to avoid potentially scoring an own goal here. Here we go. I have this piece loose. Let's just try to get you out of here, buddy. That almost worked.
I like that you called part of the ship, buddy.
Yeah.
This is very good.
How do I get the... Oh, man, it's been a little while, y'all. How do I get the back part off of the ship? The ship is fucking huge. This is a very large vessel.
Do you know all of these vessels are designed?
So yeah, there are designed components and there are procedurally generated components. Like, there's a limited number of ship designs. There's some like programmatic generation within, within constraints of some things about the ships within that space. I got 13 minutes to finish cutting this ship, and we're going to end up with a terrible score, but I'm going to call it a success if I just don't melt down the reactor and kill myself.
Okay.
Sorry, melt down the reactor. I'm trying to melt down the reactor. I'm going to call it a success if I don't explode the reactor and kill myself. Alright, so I've cut the top of the ship away from the spine. And I think that should mean that I can get the sides off here. Maneuvering in 3D space is just like fun. It's just fun to like move around. Oh boy, that's not loose. Why is that not loose?
We have someone asking in the chat if it's possible to build your own ships for others to disassemble.
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's any sort of functionality like that. So, this is a big expensive piece here that would best be put in the barge, and I forgot to cut it loose. Is it actually... Hold on, is it free now? It is free. Okay. This piece shouldn't go in the processor. That's a lot of money. There we go. Okay, so now we've got a big chunk of the side off the ship. Can I get the reactor out through this big hole I made? No. No, still no. Because this is the piece that needs to come off, and I'm doing a terrible job of removing it. Yeah, so... to get back to the point in some kind of way originally, like if I think the narrative elements of the game didn't work kind of at all, even if they were well-intentioned, like, should that disqualify it from appearing on my Game of the Year list? Is that, like, what is Game of the Year? Is this, like, is this for things that achieved a certain level of excellence in all of their execution or whatever? Like, I honestly did spend quite a lot of time thinking about this, especially sort of when I was putting together some of the earlier concepts for... I did a terrible job. Oh, and I've run out of tethers because the fucking company... Okay, hold on. I'm going to go buy some tethers from the company. Hey, look, I successfully pulled the nose cone off the ship. Ow! And then I hit my face on the fucking... Well, bad news.
Yeah.
I'm dead.
Oh, okay. Well,
Get to the thing. Activate terminal. Suit patch kit. Thruster fuel. Oxygen. Med kit. Tethers. Never mind. I'm fine.
oh. You look very fine.
Everything's cool because I'm good at space. Check out this coolant
Okay.
tank. This is valuable. Let's get that in the barge.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Basically, like, do I think there are elements of this game that are... Does the fact that I think there are large elements of this game, if you just play through the campaign and you don't do any extra stuff, the majority of your game time is spent engaging with the parts of the game that are the worst. Does that mean it's not like Game of the Year material? I don't know, but I kept coming back to it. I kept being, like, drawn into the gameplay over and over again. I kept uninstalling it and then reinstalling it because I was like, man, I want to do a cutter's race. I don't know. That's something, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the thing about any kind of art is that stuff calls to us or doesn't, and when it calls to us, there's no way to objectively say this is the best thing, this is the worst thing.
Yeah.
And so it has to do with subjectivity and with taste and with the things that you value. You can value different things and different works of art.
So there's the reactor. I have cut what I estimate is a hole large enough to get a reactor out of this ship. So I am now going to disengage some engines, some of the thrusters here, and we're going to see what happens.
Like, one of my favorite...
I fucked up and I interrupted the power, which I was trying not to do. I busted a piece somewhere that broke the power flow to the back of the ship, which is bad because now I can't disengage the thrusters anymore. That mechanism is powered. So we're going to have to just yank the reactor and throw it out of the ship real fast. I did not get the slow meltdown that I was hoping for. So let me huck a couple of these pieces into the old processor here, and then we're doing a fast pull. It's gonna be fine. I think the space I made is large enough for this to probably work. I do have to be very careful with this. If I bump it into the pipes, there's a real good chance it's going to explode.
Apparently, people fart a lot in microgravity.
That's fascinating. I fart a lot in normal gravity.
I'm aware. I love you.
I did, in fact, explode the thing. The reactor is really volatile if you don't get the good shutdown.
Okay.
Also, I thought that I had created a large enough gap, but it was a trick of perspective. If you die, they charge you for a clone, You get the idea. It does some pretty good, like, company town stuff, but then it makes you trivially able to overcome the costs.
Yeah, and I think...
Your debt actually does... It goes down slowly, but it actually does go down after every shift. And I think that, like, this is somewhat pursuant to the thing I'm talking about, like the disconnect between story and mechanics. I think to some extent they couldn't resist the urge to make you able to feel like you're winning because fun in video game. So the back part of this ship is going to be a fucking mess at this point. Yeah, you can see I have shattered a lot of extremely valuable components.
People who make video, they want them to be fun.
I know that
Wait.
to you, this is an alien concept. This cloud of blue stuff you're seeing there, I did blow up some radioactive components. That's just like a cloud of hot radiation. So that's real bad for me. You can see I destroyed 30% of the value of the ship in that little interaction in the bar at the top. So yeah, I'm bad.
I mean, if you want to have a way where you are winning, the thing to do is, you eventually seize the means of production.
Okay, but like, how do you represent that within these mechanics? Right, like that's not a doable thing, unfortunately. All right, let's see if I can do the other jobs here. Here's some fuses I need to collect. Yeah, so I don't like... It's on my Game of the Year list because, for me, the gameplay overrode the other elements. I think the gameplay is so good.
Yeah.
And this is partially a point that I'm belaboring because I think it's a thing that's really worth talking about, and partially a point that I'm belaboring because it's set up for something that's going to happen later.
Okay. I was wondering why this we're getting so much focus on, other than that you are enjoying playing this. You know?
Yeah, I think 2022 was sort of a weird year for video games, for me at least. And I would argue it's been nothing but weird years for a long time in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the other thermal spreader. This is another one of our Cutter's Race goals. These things are incredibly fragile. Be very careful with these. All right, well, all of our Cutter's Race goals are either completed or impossible because I blew them up. So, good for me. Yeah, so Hardspace Shipbreaker. I don't number the lists. Anybody who's been around here for a while knows that that we do not say this game is more game of the year than that game, usually, because like, what does it mean to say, you know, for most of these games, they're like incomparable. What does it mean to say that, you know, Rocket League is a better game than Counter-Strike, or you know, Rocket League is a better game than Disco Elysium, right? Like, how do you even say that those things can be measured? What is the standard by which both of those things can be measured? Let's see if we can salvage the airlocks here. These airlocks are pretty valuable. We got a little bit of time left. 3 minutes left in our shift here, and I'm going to do my best to get valuable components out of it. That said, also that is set up for something that's going to happen later. So you had some games. You had some thoughts about some games.
Well, okay. So here's the thing. You sent me your list of games of the year, so that I would know what you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are some things I have. You have played more games in any one of those years than I've played in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So I actually have one game that's not on your list for each of the 2 years.
Okay, that's interesting.
Is what I narrowed it down to.
That's a cool way to approach it.
Well, it wasn't on purpose. Just I haven't played them, and some of the games that I have played, like I really fell in love with Doom. Well, Doom is not a game of the year for 2022 or 2023.
I mean, it can be. Listen, I'm not here to police how anybody does things, but generally speaking, my list is for stuff that released in that year.
Yeah, and like I was tempted for Into the Breach Advanced Edition, which the Advanced Edition came out in 2022. But so I have one game for each of them, so I'm not sure if like I should do it between the 2 years.
Right now is what I'm saying.
Okay, you want the 2022 one? All right.
I'm trying to save this piece from the processor because I didn't unhinge the airlock entirely, but also you have to be very careful because the processor will consume any matter that gets too close, including you.
So controversially, one of my games of a game of the year for 2022, the one that's not already on your list, is one that I did not play but watched you play. But I feel like
I don't
that
think
was
that's
all right
necessarily like. I don't think you have to have played it yourself.
Yeah, but I feel like for Immortality,
Okay.
that was fine. Because it is a game where you are mostly watching things.
Yeah, for sure.
The interaction is choosing what to watch and when to rewind or pause or fast forward. And so I find it really fascinating as a thing that's because it clearly is a game. You're interacting with it, and through that interaction, you are learning about the story of the game, and because you're interacting, that changes the way you process that information.
Yeah, the order in which you find things will give you different understandings that are like even that level of interactivity is really meaningful to the way that you comprehend the story and the way that you perceive the themes and like what is it that's important about this story. And yeah,
and as a film nerd, like those were very particular kinds of films, and like so that was extremely my shit. Like the reason why I showed you Clute
bad
is
score.
because that one of the films in Immortality is very Clute-like.
Yeah. But she doesn't mean that as an insult. I want it to be clear. Immortality I think is a fascinating thing, and it didn't make my list in part because I was like, is there enough gameplay here? And that is maybe like a shitty way to think about it. Like, what does gameplay mean? Is comprehension gameplay?
Yeah. And like the fact that it's asking that question for me is very interesting. And
the fact is, I think inarguably yes, based on some of the other elements of my list, which we're going to seg to in just a moment.
Yeah, so it's very much a thing for me because a lot of my work, I tend to Clute, like Clute, Klute. It's a film from the 70s. Addressing the comments there.
Yeah. The chat. We call them the chat.
Yeah, sorry. As I describe, the way I tend to describe my own work is I say, is this a game? And thrust it at you with hostility. And I feel, so like games that are like, is this a game? That's extremely my shit.
Mm-hmm. You all right over there?
Yeah, Ramen says, I believe the accepted term in the vernacular is Cluty, which sounds that sounds, I don't know. We're gonna move on. So what do you got next?
What I got next is on the subject of is comprehension gameplay.
Mm-hmm. Andra is so tired of early access deck building Clute likes.
Is comprehension play? Mm-hmm. I put a lot of puzzle games on my Game of the Year list, and this is a thing you almost never see. I feel like on other people's Game of the Year lists, puzzle games get incredibly short shrift for being, in my opinion, some of the purest like games that are out there. That's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So I definitely, I just wanted to show this. I definitely did 500 Dungeons and Diagrams maps after completing my Let's Play series. Let's Call BBS, the last product from Zachtronics, or arguably last, because I think that technically their Solitaire collection did come out after this. Is absolutely like it is a collection. For those who are not familiar, it is a collection of sort of 6 different puzzle games, and then also a couple of other little things created to look like you are interacting with a sort of an older computer. This is a conceit. This sort of like the weird skeuomorphism of using a computer is a thing they explore in a lot of their games, actually. It's part of Molex Syntez. It's a huge part of Exapunks, which in my opinion is the best Zachtronics game. It's the one I like the most. Yeah. So this is it's just a collection of sort of in a lot of ways it seems like a collection of ideas that probably didn't quite make it to their own games and had been sitting on the shelf. And then when they decided to close the company down, they were like, well, let's polish these all up. And I would argue that Dungeons and Diagrams and 20th Century Food Court, especially 20th Century Food Court, by themselves, either of those would be good enough to make my Game of the Year list. The fact that this collection contains both of them, and then the like completely insane The Forbidden Path, which is a puzzle game that is, I don't know if I showed this to you, is a puzzle game that has a lot to, in connection with, or has a lot of similarities with a lot of the games that we've been talking about recently, where it's this kind of like incomprehensible game with no obvious rules to read, and you have to divine a lot of the mechanics and then solve the puzzles. It's actually the game that you most recently made and released through your company, Hollandspiel, the board game, City of the Six Moons, actually has some things in common with this. Okay. So yeah, like Last Call BBS is an incredible slam dunk. There are a lot of puzzle games on this list. This list has, I think, 3 like full hard puzzle games. And I guess, yeah, I do think comprehension is gameplay. I think it's maybe the most satisfying gameplay. It's the thing I'm always looking for. And so in that way, yeah, maybe I was being too much of a snob and Immortality should have been on the list. I'm really glad that you brought it up.
Okay. Yeah,
this
no,
fucking rad.
I mean, like, I don't want to toot my own horn.
Please do.
Too much. But someone's been trying Lock recently. That's great. I love Lock. Lock is terrific. It's a huge influence on some of my work right now.
Yeah.
Because the core of my like serious work that if people know my work, they know mostly about like my games about systemic oppression, my really depressing, sad games. And that's based on the idea that games are systems, and board games are systems that are made transparent. So board games particularly allow you to, because you need to comprehend the rules in order to operate the system, it helps you understand the system on a systemic level, and therefore learning to play a game is actually part of playing a game and not a preamble to it.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm trying to experiment a lot with my games. So comprehension, like the act of gaining comprehension, that kind of engagement, is something I think about a lot as a gameplay element.
So yeah, just to be clear, in case anybody was not aware of Zachtronics, in case you've been following me and you're not aware of Zachtronics somehow, I'm a huge fan of their entire catalog. Mobius Force is a little bit less interesting, I think, the weird war game they made. But their like long string of programming games, including things like Opus Magnum and stuff like that. Yeah, just incredible games for people who love puzzles. The 2 other puzzle games that are on my list, and these ones we're just going to show a little Steam store page for, I think. First of all, Patrick's Parabox.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick's Parabox is incredible. It's a very, very clever sort of Sokoban spatial puzzle. I don't even know how to describe this thing. Do you know how to describe this thing?
I mean,
a lot of what's special about Patrick's Parabox could be seen in sort of like the trailer that they've put on their Steam store page, where there is a lot of collapsing dimensions into other dimensions. And yeah, this is a great example. It takes the pretty familiar Sokoban concepts of, just like pushing blocks around in spaces and being limited by the ways that blocks can move in space when you can only push and not pull. But then does all of this extra dimensionality stuff with those concepts that really fundamentally changes them in some fascinating ways. This game's incredible. This game, it is going to give you headaches. It's absolutely incredible. The other puzzle game that I was wild about in 2022, that I think is very original, is Meet Me at Noon. a puzzle game where the concept is kind of complicated. So we talked a lot about like recently, because we've been talking about games like City of Six Moons and whatever, the games where figuring out the rules from playing the game to some extent is important. Things like lock, you know. We were talking about like there's a cool kind of purity to that, but like that is itself limiting. You would never be able to figure out Meet Me at Noon in that way. Like, this is a game that requires some text at the beginning, because what you're doing conceptually is pretty complicated. You're playing these two characters, and you play one of them at first. And what you're doing is you like, you know, draw a little path of movement with the orange character. I'm going to restart the trailer so it's moving. And then after you've entered in the orange character's movements, you play as the blue character who is approaching time from the other direction. So as you're controlling the blue character for each move you make, the orange character executes one move from their set of things that you did in reverse order. And so you can see like you have to be able to use orange as like a platform sometimes or whatever. But then it gets more complicated. As you can see, the scroll at the bottom of the screen here sometimes has multiple sequences from each character, and you have to take into account how time is going to flow for the two of them to make sure they are both touching the moon at the same time in each puzzle. And usually you know you have to figure out a way to do this that is reliant on using the other member of the team as a platform or as a blocker, or the puzzles get very weird and complicated, and it's just incredibly satisfying to work with. You feel like a genius every time you complete one of them. And I don't know, I've never seen anything like it. I don't know how you come up with an idea like this. So the two characters are supposed to be like, the concept to Meet Me at Noon, it's all about like meeting in the middle of time. So the characters are supposed to read as the two halves of an hourglass. You can see as the sand drains out of one of them, it fills the other one.
Okay.
And I think that probably would have come across a little bit more clearly if they had just made one of them be upside down, but they wanted them to be like roughly person shaped. But yeah, so this was a fantastic 2022, fantastic year for puzzle games. One of the best puzzle game years we've ever had, maybe. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, the next thing is maybe going to be a little bit, you know, we're going to come around to it. You know what? You know what's really good?
What?
Amabel, have you ever heard of this game called Pentiment?
Yes, and that would have been on my list if it wasn't on yours.
Yeah. Pentiment, well, first of all, I mean, obviously this game is very important to both of us because it's the first series that we did together. Is this playing? Mm-hmm. This is not playing. Okay, well, show some screenshots then. Pentiment is it's an adventure game, kind of. I mean, the word for Pentiment, the one word that I think is fair to use to describe Pentiment is masterpiece. Like, it is a level it is a level of like self-conscious mastery exercised in absolutely every element. Like, I don't think you very rarely play a game where you can feel the creator's hands so much, if that makes sense.
Especially not a game with this kind of... I mean, this was not like a small little game.
No.
You know, it had a lot of... There's a whole staff behind it and whatnot, and they're all working the top of their game, I think. Yeah,
this is clearly a passion project for somebody who got into a position of power in a major developer, right? And Josh Sawyer's like a fascinating dude, and his career is really interesting. He seems nice. You know, I have like hung out in his streams a couple of times and stuff. He seems like a cool dude. I don't know him personally, obviously. But yeah, I love Obsidian, the development studio that made this. I have loved them for some other things they've done. I don't know if you ever heard of like Fallout New Vegas, but this is, yeah, like I don't think I've ever played a thing that I think is as good as Pentiment. And I don't mean that to say like this is the game that I've enjoyed the most of any game I've ever played, but it's just like, again, it's just so masterful. It's just so like a bunch of artists working very hard to do a thing at the absolute top of their game, and the story is fascinating. It really explores some interesting things about interactivity in a narrative and like what it means to make a choice. What is the nature of consequence? You know, I think a lot of AAA narrative games want to be about those things, or they pretend to be about those things because it's very easy to say. If there's any choices in your game and there's any consequences, you can say that. You could be like, oh, well, it's about the choices, obviously. But this actually is about, like, it's thoughtful.
Yes, I think this is one of the first games I've encountered where, like, it's clear that the people making it thought about, like, themes.
Yeah, it definitely has a very literary feel.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm really glad that you asked me to, because I guess I don't want to reveal too much SB lore, but like, you were hesitant about covering it because of the historical stuff, and you said, "Hey, can you come on and be history person?" And I'm so glad that you did.
Yeah, well, I don't have any idea what I'm talking about with any of that stuff. Like,
I mean, neither do I, but people think I do, so I get by.
You know more about. Yeah, you definitely know more about history than I do.
Yeah, but this game, it's such. I mean, I think you've said it really succinctly, and I think I just really admire all the care and thought and snill that went into this.
I can't believe you did that. All right, next game. We're moving on. Next game. I Was a Teenage Exocolonist is a pretty different take on like story and narratives in interactive media. And one of the things I really like about this game is something that's kind of hidden. It's sort of a sneaky thing. Like when you play through the game the first time, it seems to just be a like living in a colony simulator. Like the name is really appropriate. It's a game about being a teenage exocolonist. Your ship lands on a new world and you play through that character's life from the ages of like 10 to 18. And you can see it's got this like card mechanic that represents like your developing skills and the things you're good at, and you know, you take on challenges that are of different colors and difficulties, and you're managing all these relationships, and like it's good. It's a visual novel, and it's a good one of those. But then somewhere around the end of your first playthrough, or earlier if you are the kind of person who like save scums, somewhere around the end of your first playthrough, you realize that the game is aware of the way that people play these kinds of games. And the idea that you might reload a save to do something is built into the systems of the game. If you do that, your character remembers the stuff from after the save. Like there are things accumulating in your save file quietly in the background, and you will have visions of future events that you, the player, have seen, but the character canonically should not have seen. And that's actually like a critical element to seeing some of the game's content and reaching some of the game's ending, is using information that your character couldn't possibly have yet. So like if you start a new game in the same file, you know, there's a catastrophe at the beginning of the game, right? That causes the ship to have to set down on the planet that it sets down on. And there's another catastrophe shortly afterward that takes the life of a child in the colony. A young child dies in a way that nobody could foresee. But the second time you go through that situation, your character remembers it happening, and you can do things to affect the outcomes. You can avert it, and it leads to a different story. And I think that that's fascinating, and I think it's so impressive that they basically like kept it under their hat, that it's not like the central element of the marketing for the game. It's not mentioned in like the little blurb here. It's just like, you can get all the way through this pretty damn good sci-fi visual novel and then discover that there's this whole other thing that is actually the core of the game. And it's fucking rad. Also, it's like It's extremely cool about gender and representation and stuff in a way that it's very thoughtful about that in a way that a lot of games aren't. It is heavy and violent and dark, and it has the best system of content warnings for that stuff that I've ever seen in a piece of media. It has like an interactive content warning where you can, try to like manage your own level of like, how much do I need to know to not, get set off by something versus how much am I willing to be spoiled? Yeah, it's really brilliant. Really, really excellent work. Your character has blue hair and pronouns. You get to pick both of them, and that's that's the world we're living in outer space. The colony is explicitly like non-capitalist. Like they left Earth to get away from the capitalists destroying the environment. It is a very leftist game at its heart. Yeah. All that stuff is good. I was a teenage exocolonist a lot. I knew I was going to like it going into it, and I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to because of the sort of like hidden depth of it. Also, I knew it was going to be queer, but it was way queerer than I was expecting to, and that's always nice. Given how often media tacks the other direction.
Yeah.
So speaking of queerness in media, the next thing on the list is Signalis. Signalis, which is a classic survival horror experience set in a dystopian future where humanity has uncovered a dark secret. It's a game about lesbian robots. I'm a real sucker for lesbian robot games. What was that? The one with the Metroidvania that came out a few years ago? Undaunted or something like that.
I've never heard it, and now I need to play this.
The fact that this game is about lesbian robots is not critically important to. I mean, it's critically important to the story, but it's not like about that, In a weird way, it is another game that is sort of about choice in narrative, but in a very different way. It's not about players making choices in games. Although it is a little bit, but I was going to say so much as it is about the way that people tell themselves stories as a way of like coping with situations. And, but if you can't tell from this gameplay, it's very, very like PS1 horror, Resident Evil, or very specifically Silent Hill inspired. And it plays brilliantly with those elements. This is clearly a game made by people who love those games and want to explore that space, and it does it very effectively. There is definitely more than a little bit of Neon Genesis Evangelion in the way that the narrative is delivered, and a lot of the you can kind of see some of that here even in the trailer. The way the narrative is delivered and the sort of like thematic elements of it. It's dark, it's scary, it's difficult, and it's a little more anime than I would like, but I suppose given the influences, it was unavoidable.
I like how sad it is.
It's very sad. It's very sad for a sort of arguably an action game. Whether or not if you're going to engage with Signalis, play the game before you do this. But if you have already engaged with it or you don't intend to play it yourself, I would very, very strongly recommend a video essay about it called... let me look it up real quick. It's on a YouTube channel called Power Pack. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the name of the video essay is... Sorry. I could have had this queued up. That would have been professional. But I was trying not to do stuff. Signalis is horrifying and beautiful is the name of the thing. I can drop a link in the chat. I'm going to drop a link in the chat.
Drop a link in the chat.
This is Power Pack's. This is Power Pack's brilliant thing. Power Pack in general, huge shout out. Really, really fantastic video essayist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, that's Pentiment. It's incredible, and I did a playthrough of it on the channel. I think it's probably an okay way to engage with it if this is not your kind of thing. Personally, I really enjoyed it, by which I mean a lot of it I had like it was nightmarishly difficult, and you know, these games are like this.
And, you know, and the thing for me is like I've seen parts of playthroughs of this, and I've kind of seen that video essay.
It is sad. The video essay is also going to make you cry.
Yeah,
I will warn you, especially if you are a queer person yourself. So,
but I've never played a survival horror game, so like I don't have the like foundational knowledge to say, oh, this is a reference to that, or this is like, oh, this is just a game with a frustrating inventory system. Okay.
yeah, they're using it for stuff. They're doing things with it, and it's not just the mechanical things they're doing with it, but it's also the way that they're like setting themselves within an intellectual lineage by doing it, and the ways they make use of that, and the set of expectations that it generates. I really love these waves. This wave of games that started probably like 15 years ago, where you started getting people who are making their own games who grew up playing video games, where, you know, we're starting to get the form being able to make reference back to the form in ways that matter both mechanically and thematically.
Yeah.
I said wave. It is at this point like it just, you know, part of the thing. Wave is a bad way to describe a thing that's been happening for close to 2 decades. But you know, like Signalis gets a lot out of the fact that the first time you use a save, the first time you encounter a save point, it's a computer where the screen is just solid red, and everybody who's played a Silent Hill game immediately is uncomfortable. They go, oh, okay, that's what we're doing.
And that's part of the maturation of the form, you know, because every form of art has a history, has a lineage, has works being in conversation with other works, and repurposing things to express things that are from the head or from the heart, and not just like, you know, here is a reference. Like, here I put a turtle in my game to jump on. It means something different when there's a meaning behind it, you know?
Yeah, sorry, I am listening. I am also there's some very interesting stuff going on in chat.
Yes.
I don't have anything to add. I
don't.
Can I say this? This is gonna sound like I'm trying to do some parasocial shit, and I'm not. I swear. This is from the real, actual bottom of my heart. I really like my audience. I really like the people who like, just like fascinating folks. I think y'all are cool and smart and fun to listen to. And I think a lot of YouTube people have audiences that are less that. So I don't know. I'm just saying I'm grateful that such a cool sort of class of people choose to spend their time engaging with my content and stuff. That's really neat and gratifying for me. Anyway, before I get all mushy, Amabel, I skipped over an entry on the list and you didn't catch me. Oops.
I'm not looking at your list.
Okay. Oops, I forgot Case of the Golden Idol. I was supposed to talk about this when we were talking about all the puzzle games.
Okay.
This is Case of the Golden Idol. It's a kind of puzzle game that I had not seen, I think, before, or at least certainly not anytime recently. There is a whole, let me say this. There is a whole branch of puzzle games that I am sort of on the outside of. I do want to real quickly here catch. I see this question, and I don't know how long ago it was. Nope Nah asks, are parts of the game, by which they mean Signalis, I assume, canonically in German, or is it just showing off the various languages it's available in? Significant portions of the game are in. There's a lot of German text, especially in like the weird images that flash by that you're not really meant to read. But there is also a lot of like German language in the radio transmissions, and there's a fair amount of Japanese as well. Like the empire that you're a part of, the empire that your character lives in, is implied to be a sort of like German and Japanese and Korean kind of amalgam. Which again, you know, it definitely brings up some like, that's an aesthetic in anime. If you watch enough anime, you're familiar with that. Like, the Japanese culture is somewhat fixated on like certain kinds of like cultural signifiers that they think are cool, somewhat disconnected from the meaning of those signifiers, which is why you see a lot of like weird Christian imagery that doesn't mean Christian things in anime. And yeah, you I don't want to get off on a thing, but yeah, there's significant portions of the game that are in German and Japanese. Don't worry, you don't need to know German or Japanese. You are not meant to understand them when they are presented only in non-English. Anything you are meant to understand is also presented in English. Anyway, yeah, Case of the Golden Idol. I'm just going to zoom past this because we're kind of like past this energy, but like this game is really rad. And the expansions that they released, the little DLCs that they released are really rad. It's a game about like basically examining the moment after some kind of horrible thing has been committed. And I saw it in the, let me put the trailer back up here. You examine the scene and you try to reconstruct the narrative of what occurred. Via your thinking journal. So you have like this story with a bunch of blanks in it and you have to fill in elements of the scene. Each of the individual puzzles is clever and fun and interesting to figure out. But what really I think makes the game special is the way that they build, the way that you need to keep in mind things from the earlier cases as you're working through the later cases. And the final one is sort of like this, this big culminating puzzle. It refers to all of the other puzzles in some way, and requires you to be very, very thoughtful. And I just like, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I love the like intentional grotesqueness of the art style, for thematic reasons. And yeah, it's just really, really interesting stuff. I was a little bit afraid that I would not be into this because of the sort of historical context is like a time period that I do not have a lot of interest in, but I actually found the gameplay fascinating. This is a really, really great game. The thing I got distracted. The thing I was going to say is there is a whole set of puzzle games. There's a whole like branch of puzzle games that I'm like very unaware of. In part because they are games that are often marketed more to girls, which nobody understood that I was when I was younger. So I didn't get a lot of those things during my formative years. I'm thinking about things in sort of like the Her interactive Nancy Drew hidden object kind of space. Okay. And to some extent, this feels like it comes from that background, but I can't sort of say for sure what its direct lineage is because I'm so much less familiar with those games.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
I don't have much familiarity either.
I think that that's some of what's going on here. And I think it's a real shame that those games get such short shrift because some of them are actually really rad. One of the things that I really loved about Abby Russell working at Giant Bomb for the period where that was happening before Giant Bomb fell apart was that she really brought a spotlight to a lot of like the Nancy Drew games and helped me realize that like, oh, they're actually like, they're good. There's stuff going on here. Helped me sort of like get over some shitty preconceptions. Anyway, yeah. So that's 9 games, I believe. 8 games. That's 8 games. I think that's
8. Do you have another puzzle game for us?
Nope. I mean, sort of. Here's the thing. Yeah, let's talk about Vampire Survivors. So I said earlier with some of the stuff I was saying about Shipbreaker that I was setting up a thing that was going to happen later, and this is that thing. Vampire Survivors, I put a lot of time into in 2022, and I had a lot of fun with it. I got a lot out of it. I think it's very cool, but Vampire Survivors has this incredible tone, and the way that the unlocks work is so fascinating to me. Like, the main thing about the gameplay that is interesting to me is the sort of like the puzzle of figuring out how the progression works and trying to piece together. This is another thing where like comprehension is maybe the main gameplay. Trying to piece together the insane lore, because it's fascinating. It's a fascinating story, and like I was hooked on like trying to figure out what weird thing I needed to do next and what weirder thing was going to occur when I did it. You know, finding your way into the dairy plant and getting attacked by the milk elementals, and then like going to the cathedral and all of the angels turn into bats, which turn into angels, and the thing where like 5 different Grim Reapers Voltron themselves together into a Mega Reaper and attack you in an extra dimensional abstract space by hurling the concept of caskets at you. It's like, there's so much going on here, and it's so fascinating. And the thing about it is the actual moment to moment gameplay of the runs and walking around and picking up the items is never better than fine. It's often considerably less than fine. Like, it's a game that I couldn't play it for like hours at a time because I would get bored. But there's so much stuff going on outside of what I guess you would call like the core gameplay loop that I really loved, that I think is so fascinating, and that I would love to see. I would love to see more games engage in the kind of like surrealism that this game is all about. Even conceptually, like the idea of be the bullet hell as a marketing pitch is so, it's such a goofy way to approach the thing. And if you didn't get to play Vampire Survivors right when it came out, I think you're probably going to miss that, because now this is a whole genre and it doesn't feel weird anymore. And I think it's so baffling that it is a whole genre. There's so many of these games and they're all focused on reproducing the part of it that isn't interesting. Because like the actual mechanics, the thing that's good about the mechanics of the runs of this game is that it's a silly idea, because it was a silly idea at the time. But like, it's not actually fun to pick up all your 6,000 passive items and then stand there while enemies run at you for 19 minutes because there's no way to accelerate the game, and the thing you need to do is get to the 30-minute mark in your run. Right? It's very easy. You become, if you're paying attention to how the items and systems work at all, it becomes borderline impossible for you to lose a run very early. And there are some characters who they have weird challenges built in or whatever. You can make it more challenging, but you can only make it so challenging because the mechanics don't really give you a way to engage with mechanical challenge in the first place. Yeah, I don't know. Like, the gameplay is just not. I don't know why there are so many Vampire Survivors mimics that are focused on the gameplay and not on the bizarre story and unlock methods and like carving your way through this bizarre. Like, the game's called Vampire Survivors and there aren't any vampires in it. Did you know that?
I don't think I knew that.
You're all survivors of vampires. You spend the whole game tracking down magical coffins and opening them to discover that there aren't vampires in them. And every time you do it, it gives you like a Super Mario style, "Oh no, your vampire must be in another coffin" message. Like, the absurdity and the surrealism are the things that got this game on the Game of the Year list. They're incredible. It is an incredible execution with some very, very excellent writing from Stephanie Sterling. And I would recommend everybody get into that stuff and, play the game. It's fine. Yeah, so that's this game. It's on my Game of the Year list for exactly the opposite reasons of Hardspace Shipbreaker. And a lot of the sort of like the high concept weirdness that made it impossible for me to finish the video was sort of based on like highlighting that contradiction. And, because I think it's a weird problem to have where I have to like explain, well, this game's on my Game of the Year list because I think all these important things about games. And then this one's on my Game of the Year list because I think exactly all the opposite of the things I just said. But I am a mystery. It's a complicated thing,
Yeah.
Does that all make sense? Does anybody need further explanation on that?
I mean, it makes sense to me.
Okay, then I'm gonna talk about the other thing. So I talked about how we don't rank the Game of the Year lists. I tried with the first couple of Game of the Year lists that I did on the channel. There's one where I did them in like rough tiers and stuff, and I didn't like that. I found that it felt like a silly exercise. Like, how do you say one game is better than another when they're so different? A lot of the games I like are very different.
Yeah.
I want to be clear about the fact that Tunic is my game of the year for 2022. Tunic is so fucking good. And maybe this is just me, but like, you can see on the screen here, it is basically like, it is tilt-shifted Legend of Zelda shit. It's kind of like a 3D Link to the Past, but it's a layer of 3D Link to the Past laid over top of a layer of Fez. And it's like just exactly my shit. It's so much exactly my shit. This game is better than everything else that came out in 2022. I'm sorry, other video games that are on the list, you're still all very, very good, but Tunic is extraordinary. It's just extraordinary. This game came out right as we were moving, and so for the week around its release, I didn't have internet access. I didn't have proper internet access. I tethered my computer to my phone to download Tunic, and it was the thing I did while we were waiting for people to get services connected and stuff. So that's why it's not on the channel. But I'm really glad that I got to engage with it that way, because it made me feel a lot less bad about spending a huge amount of time decoding the fictional language that's in the game. Mm-hmm. And much like Fez, you never need to decode the language. It doesn't tell you anything, really. But the puzzle of decoding the language was incredibly fun. It's such a good secret language, and it's not just a substitution cipher. I won't spoil it any further than that, but it's more complicated than that, and it's really fun and cool. And every element of the game, this is a game that is so much the thing I was just talking about, where it's like people who grew up loving a game making a thing that expresses some element of that love. I should talk about what that game actually is, in case people are unfamiliar. Tunic it's like a tilt-shifted Legend of Zelda, but as you're running around in the game world, first of all, you can see all of the game text is in this language that you don't know how to speak. It turns out you don't need most of it. Most of the time when a video game's telling you something in a dialogue box, if you've played video games before, you already know what it's saying. You got a key or whatever. But as you're running around in the game world, you start to find pages for the game manual, and the game manual is partially in English, but it's also partially in the in-game language. And a lot of the game mechanics are extremely not obvious. There's a lot of unintuitive stuff, a lot of hidden stuff that you can figure out if you can work enough to decode the manual. And again, I don't think you need to decode the language to understand what's going on in the manual. It has enough of those like NES manual style pictographs and stuff that you can get the idea from that. But as you're picking up more pages of the manual and forming a more thorough understanding of the game, you'll also start to notice that there are pen marks. You don't have like a fresh, clean manual. This is someone's game. They've made pen marks and started figuring some things out in the margins of the manual, and there are notes and stuff. And I think that the sort of like the narrative of that person and their relationship to you is actually really one of the most fascinating things about the game. And I want to be clear, like, it's not like heavy-handed. It's not like the game doesn't go, this person was your brother and they handed the game down to you, but it develops that feeling, you know? Mm-hmm. And it has the feeling of like working through a game with somebody, but not working through a game with the internet, which is to say just having 1,000 explainer pages tell you everything. Like it's still you figuring out. It feels collaborative, even though you're just collaborating with the game. But if you had, I imagine, because I didn't, but if you had like an older sibling and you were getting their games and you were inheriting some of their knowledge in the way that, you know, you do from a friend or from a sibling or whatever, where it's not like, here's everything explained, but here's what I think and here's some like stuff that I did. I think it probably really touches on that experience. Yeah, I just think it's extraordinary all the way around. And I said that the puzzle of figuring out the language was incredibly fun and satisfying, and it absolutely was. But I want to call out specifically. I don't want to spoil anything about it. I will just refer to it as the Golden Path puzzle. The Golden Path puzzle is my favorite thing I've gotten to do in a video game in years and years. Just absolutely extraordinary design. Yeah, Tunic's amazing. Tunic's amazing. It's a cut above a bunch of games in a year that was really very good for video games, in my opinion. I would strongly recommend everybody play it. It's so fucking good. Amabel, do you have anything else to say about 2022? We're 90 minutes into the stream.
2022. Oh, I think we should move on, but I should say there's one game. I'm going to give an honorable mention to a game that may not come out in 2022. I have no idea when it came out, actually.
Okay.
But I have a soft spot for Sunshine Heavy Industries.
Okay, yeah.
Because
that game's a delight.
It's a delight, and that was the first one of your videos that I watched, and I heard you do voices, and this was like just before our first meeting, and I was like, this girl's really cool and talented, and this is what happens. You give me an opportunity to fill space, I'm gonna get mushy.
I'm okay with it. That's all right. Yeah, Sunshine Heavy Industries is a fun little game. It is a delight. It is from the people who made Cobalt Core, and there are some common characters between the two games. This is the thing they did before Cobalt Core. I'm sure people are largely familiar with Cobalt Core, but this is the thing that led to that, and I think this is just as fun, honestly. Cobalt Core is. I think I didn't like Cobalt Core as much as a lot of people did. It's good. It's a little thin, but it's good.
This trailer's very good.
This trailer's very charming, yeah.
Send nerds into space. Meet all these dweebs.
Okay. Ooh, I'm starting to wheeze a little bit. My respiratory stuff is catching up with me.
I'm sorry, sweetheart.
We're almost through the summer. My allergies should be just about. Ugh. Okay. Anyway, 2023. Hey, let's talk about
2023.
Let's talk about 10 more games, but faster.
Okay.
A lot of the slow stuff I had to say was in that year. Yeah.
Well, 11 more games because I got one.
Oh, sure. Would we still love the little fox if he were a worm? Yes, Stephanie. Yes, we would. So, first game that we're going to talk about for 2023, definitely on my game of the year list. Shadow Gambit, The Cursed Crew. This company, Me Games, they resurrected a style of game that used to exist. This used to be a genre. Now, as far as I know, they're the only company that makes them, except they don't anymore because they went out of business after making Shadow Gambit. But this is like the Commandos, Desperados series, if you're familiar with those. These like sort of tactical stealth games where you have a few units with fascinating abilities against a massively superior power, and you are infiltrating places and accomplishing missions. And Shadow Gambit is, like, to be clear, their previous games, Shadow Tactics Blades of the Shogun, I think is what the samurai one is called. And then Desperados 3, they got the Desperados license and were able to just make a Desperados game. Those games are both great. Super worth your time if you like this kind of stuff at all. They're both really, really good. But Shadow Gambit is them at the absolute height of their powers. It is a totally original setting. It's this like haunted, the Lost Caribbean, they call it. It's this like Pirates of the Caribbean occult kind of thing. And it's just so rad. And the designs of all of your characters, your crew, are super fun. And oh man, it's just, it is the absolute apex of this kind of gameplay. It is so fucking good. It's really frustrating to me that they went out of business because this business is a nightmare where nobody can make things that are interesting anymore. Not because people can't do it, but because the economic incentives don't line up. And capitalism's bad for art.
Yep.
Anyway, Shadow Gambit. Steal some money. Stab some guys. Teleport around a lot with magic swords. Look at that shit. Hit a guy with a giant anchor? Yeah. I love their games. Go out and buy all of them. That's what I have to say about that. I'm trying to keep it moving quickly here. Just going down this list in the order that I wrote it. Hey, did y'all hear about this Godzilla game that come out? Did you know that licensed video games are good again? I don't know when they were before, but now they are. And it's like that. I think there was a period where a video game being licensed didn't necessarily mean it was bad. I know that ET happened pretty early in video games, but I think there was a period, like, there are a lot of licensed NES games that are just like, that are totally fine, right?
Yeah.
And then you get into this period.
People say are bad are actually fine.
And then you get into this period, this sort of like post 16-bit period where licensed games are garbage, like really, really garbage. Like it became like a sign of a total cash in, and there were studios that were doing just that. They were just making licensed games and pumping out like 15 of them every year. But like companies have started contracting like weirder little developers to make weirder little games with their IP, and I am loving that thing. There was that shoot, I can't remember. There was a horror movie that had like a weird demake made a couple like last year, I think, that was really interesting. And there's this Godzilla Voxel Wars, which is a Godzilla puzzle game about using Godzilla and Mothra and King Ghidorah and whatever to save the Earth from an invasion of space mushrooms, space fungus, using their various Godzilla powers. And it's just rad. It takes a lot of inspiration from Into the Breach. It is a little bit more consciously a puzzle game than Into the Breach. Into the Breach is already, sort of a game that straddles the line between puzzle and strategy game in the first place, and that line is very blurry and in different places on different days to begin with. But yeah, this secretly, quietly is like actually an amazing game, a really, really fun puzzle game, using these adorable voxel versions of the Godzilla characters and doing some things I've never seen before. And like this like summoning system that they have with the energy to create more Godzilla monsters enables them to make some puzzles that are not like anything I've ever seen before. We played a little bit of this on the channel, and we are coming back to it. It is going to happen.
Yes.
But I would recommend this, to anybody, and I don't think it's very expensive. Yeah, it's like $15, and there's so much of it. There's like 200 levels. This game's rad.
And I love Godzilla.
You do. You love Godzilla very much. That was a huge part of, honestly, I bought this because I was like, what am I going to do with Amabel next? And so I played it, and then I was like, oh, it's actually good. Like you can hear me in the series in real time being like, wait a minute, is this like a fun game?
Mm-hmm.
Laika is next. Laika Aged Through Blood, which is a Motorvania. You can see here, there's a lot of very lush animation. This is a game about like, what if a Metroid was a Trials? Sort of. And you collect the viscera of your enemies and use them to buy upgrades for your guns while riding a motorcycle around the wasteland, a post-apocalyptic sort of Mad Max wasteland. And you'll notice the character in the trailer doing a lot of flips. The flips are mechanically important. You can only reload your gun by doing a backflip. It's just like, and your gun is bulletproof. The most important part of the mechanics is your motorcycle is bulletproof. You are very much not. And so you are using your bike as a shield to deflect enemy shots while moving through this wasteland. And it has some really dark storytelling, which is always a thumbs up for me. I enjoy a dark story. And yeah, I had a tremendous amount of fun. It is like the gameplay does feel a little bit clumsy sometimes. I don't know how they would possibly have avoided that given the thing they chose to do. But yeah, overall, I think it's very singular. It's very weird and dark, and it is extremely rad. I had a really great time with this. And it's not on enough people's Game of the Year lists. I feel like this one snuck past a lot of like the major outlets. So yeah, there's that. Again, trying to move fast. Apologies if I don't have the lack of me getting like really effusive about these things should not be taken as indication that they are any less than any of the games from the 2022 list. It's just I realized how much time has passed.
And to be clear, sweetheart, I figured already this one's gonna go a little long.
Okay.
So don't feel like you need to rush too much. What do you have next?
I took
everyone in the chat was waiting for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you were talking about
the Tunic language.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. I do want to point out Stephanie in the chat pointing out that the soundtrack for Laika is amazing, which it absolutely is. That game has an incredible soundtrack. Yeah. So this is Chants of Sonar. This is a game about language translation where you do in fact have to translate the language. That's what the game is. Yeah, it's sort of loosely based on the Tower of Babel idea, where there's this place that you are dropped into where there are many different peoples, different groups of people, and each of the groups of people speaks a different language and they have no ability to communicate with each other. And so you are at first just learning how to speak each language individually, or learning how to make sense of each language individually so that you can relate to people and solve sort of simple puzzles in the environment. And it's cool. It's just like a cool idea for a puzzle game. It's fun to tease out the meaning of the words and make guesses. There were a couple of individual puzzles that I had some problems with, but conceptually I think it's all very good. But then the last bit of the game requires you to serve as a go-between, requires you to function as a translator for conversations being had by people from the different groups and, you know, connect their concepts together and take an idea being expressed by one of them and put it into a form that the other one can understand and respond to. And I think that stuff is pure fucking gold. That's such a good idea for a game. I can't believe I've never seen anybody do it before. And this like the rest of the game serving as the very organic build up to that very special idea. I think it feels really good in execution. It's very smart. It's got a very distinctive art style. I really, really love the art, and each group's area has a different sort of like dominant color and sort of architectural styles and stuff. And the languages are, again, it's not like a substitution cipher thing. The languages are conceptual, and they approach some things about grammar differently. So you have to kind of like learn. I don't want to give away anything else about it. It's just really fucking good and smart. If you like games about translation, games about trying to understand a thing that is initially presented to you in a really baffling way, I can't recommend Chants of Sonar enough. Absolutely, definitely one of my favorite games of the year. If this was a year where I was numbering things, this game would be like high up on the list, not just on the list. Speaking of games that would be high up on the list, yo, fucking Pizza Tower is amazing. So this is a 2D speedrunning platformer. My understanding is that like a lot of the inspiration here in terms of like the character being invincible and the game being mostly about like finding collectibles really comes from the Wario Land games, which I've never played any of. And also the character having a lot of like transformations. But as you can see from even just this trailer, the animation in this game is completely insane. Like what a maximum fucking effort the artist put into everything that is going on here. There is so much of it. It is so aggressively in your face and weird and kind of grotesque, and like, I think like because the game is it's in this like colorful environment, and the things you're doing can be a little complicated mechanically, you know. A speedrunning game, you can develop a lot of like weird mechanical tricks and stuff. I think they kind of went for an aesthetic of just like the thing being overwhelming. Like being overwhelmed is kind of the major thematic concern.
And I see why that would resonate for you.
Well, and I think it's just like a really brilliant approach to a game that is about going fast. Yeah, I can't recommend this strongly enough. I feel like I don't have to. This one definitely broke containment and got into the wider discourse. It does have almost 55,000 Steam reviews. So I think people know about this one a little bit more. But even if you're not a person who necessarily enjoys like timed challenges and stuff, I would still recommend giving this a shot if you can. I don't think it has a demo. No, but maybe like wait for it to be on sale and give it a shot, because there's something really compelling about the sense of speed. Like, it's just exhilarating in a really fun way. And to be perfectly honest, if all you're trying to do is get through the game, the timers are very generous. Which you can see, I did a series on the game. You could see that I am not any good at it, and I'm still making it through in the timers. The game is set up. This might be helpful. The game is set up so that if you want, you can challenge yourself on the timers by doing a so like you can go through each of the levels at your own pace, slow as you want. And then you finish the level by knocking out a structural element and having to go backwards through the level under time pressure. That's where the timer comes in. And the game is set, all of the levels are set up so that you can make the whole run back and then take a teleporter back to the place where you knocked out the structural member and do a second lap. And even a third lap, I believe, is possible on all the levels, to give you an idea of how much extra time there is. So if you're just trying to get through it once, it's very doable, and it's very, like I said, exhilarating and silly and lush, and yeah, just extremely rad. It feels like a Wario Land Nicktoon, and it's amazing.
Cool beans. Before we move on to the next one, I want to join people in the chat congratulating Der Spider-Man, who is looking to be going to be a dad sometime next week.
Oh, hell yeah.
Congratulations.
That is rad. Congratulations, absolutely. So this thing, On Guard is a sword fighting game. It's a swashbuckling action game. It uses it is all about sword duels and doing sword combat with guys. It uses a kind of a modified version of the Arkham combat, but a one that's like very environmentally aware. A huge amount of the game is about like you kicking objects into people and kicking people into objects and throwing things at them, and you know, overcoming superior enemies and superior force through various kinds of trickery. Yeah, you can see there's a lot of focus in the trailer here on throwing things at people, kicking barrels over. And it's just like, the thing about this game, the gameplay is not anything like spectacularly new. You have played games that have this kind of combat before, although maybe not feeling quite as smooth and snappy as this. I think it's really effective at the execution of that. But it is just like pure joy. Like everybody it seems like everybody making the game was having the most fun you can have doing this thing, and it feels like joy to play it. I don't really know how to put it into words better than that. I know that's literally my job, is to put it into words better than that. But like, it's just fun in like the purest sense. It's snappy and it's bouncy, and there's like good cheesy sword fighting pun dialogue. It's got a very like Antonio Banderas, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Legend of Zorro kind of feel to everything. And yeah, like it's a delight to like parry a guy and then kick him down the stairs into his friends. And I don't know how to express it other than it is the most joyful game about violence I've ever played. And that is worth a lot, in my opinion. And I definitely I 100% it. I did absolutely everything. And I was actually just the other day thinking like I might reinstall it and delete my save and do absolutely everything again. Because it is a delight.
Is that Legend of Zorro movie good?
The first one, yeah, because I think they made a couple. Maybe
There's more than one.
Maybe I don't know. I liked the one I saw, which was
okay.
But I feel like it did really well, and then there were more Zorro movies afterward, and they were less good. I might be making that up, but it did do really well if I remember. So I don't know. I like that movie though. I saw it when I was very young. To be fair, it might be gross or whatever, but.
I mean, that's the way it was with me and Clifford.
Clifford has other problems. The next game on this list is Viewfinder. Viewfinder is a puzzle game about the thing that you're seeing right now. You have a magic Polaroid camera that can take pictures of spaces, and then you can hold the camera up, or you can hold the picture up and merge it into reality. And then use it as, you can walk around on it or things like that. And you can see the way they're playing with it here. Hey, what if there was actually just open air in that location? They come up with a lot of fascinating things to do with it. They have a lot of ideas, and they do not really let any of them overstay their welcome. They will still be throwing new things at you all the way to the end. And in fact, there are a couple of mechanics that I was really disappointed how few times they were used, because I was like, oh, that's fascinating. But they're very smart about, well, that seems irresponsible. They're very smart about it. And I think it has a touching narrative, I would say. It's not super groundbreaking in the narrative department. You can pet the cat. But yeah, the gameplay of taking a photo of the environment and then merging your photo into the environment like this to create a ledge or a platform or some open space, just being able to dynamically redesign the environment in this clever way. It is a cool trick that does not get old in the game's runtime, in my opinion. It is kind of a short game, so I suspect they were also worried about that. But yeah, they do a lot of fascinating things with it. A lot of sort of impossible things with it. It's definitely a game that is in addition to being a fun puzzle game, it is a game that is focused on wonder. Strongly recommend. A really interesting game that is both about a fascinating kind of puzzle solving and also a sort of collaborative puzzle solving process, which is not a thing that you undergo so much in the game, but the story of the game. You're uncovering the work of this team of scientists. I don't want to spoil any of that stuff, but I thought it was really interesting. Anyway, moving forward, I'm gonna skip over the next thing. We're gonna come back to it. Against the Storm. Against the Storm came out in 2023. I had to bail on the campaign in my series because I failed several times, and the way some of the things about this game are constructed, they make a certain kind of failure pretty time consuming to recover from. But I don't want anyone to get it twisted that I have a problem with the game or anything, because I think this game is brilliant. It's a city builder roguelite, effectively. They here's the thing. I kind of like these city building games a little bit. But the part I like is the beginning part where you're setting up your resource loops and you're figuring things out and you're making people happy. And then once you've made a functional little colony, then I'm done. This is the part of the city builder that always baffles me. It's what do you do after you hit baseline established? And a lot of games have different answers to this problem, right? Endlessly escalating resource needs. So you need to set up reinforcing resource loops, or expanding out into the world and following a narrative or whatever. But like I will play for me, like, Don't Starve. The interesting part of Don't Starve is like the first 90 minutes. The people who made this game apparently either have the same thought or at least have heard other people express the thought. And so they made a game where you just do different interesting versions of the first 90 minutes over and over again. And it's fucking brilliant. It's such a good idea. This is one I intend to come back to. I haven't gotten around to it yet, but I intend to come back to this and actually do the thing. But I had a great time with this while I was playing it. I expect I will have a great time with it when I start playing it again. It is such a smart take on the city builder, and it is such an interesting use of programmatic, not programmatic. What's the word I want here? The thing that roguelites do. No, not problematic. The thing that roguelites do. Programmatic is a fine
procedural.
Yeah, procedural. Thank you. Programmatic is a fine synonym, but procedural is the word I wanted. Procedural generation to create a set of challenges, like exploring a map and finding out what resource nodes are around, and then figuring out how you're going to use those sets of resources to establish the basic needs of your people and stuff. Like that is so much more interesting than the other parts of these games for me personally. For people like me, I guess, because I must not be the only one. And I really think they've done a brilliant job of using the tools available in our age of increasing understanding of procedural generation to make a game that is just the good parts.
Can I make an observation?
Yeah.
Because this is not the only kind of, like, within the strategy genre, the big tent of it. I've heard you express this before. Like, the cool part is at the start of the game, and then
there's an issue I have with a lot of 4X games, where they like the cool parts. The cool parts, exploration is the best of the X's, and then the further you get into the game and the further you get away from exploration, the less fun the game becomes.
So the thing I think is interesting is, you and I play a lot of board games, and I make board games are a big part of our lives, and in board games we don't really have this problem because it's just when you've gone to the part where you have all your loops put together, you have all your things built, the game just ends.
Yeah, usually they're timed to end right at that point.
Because the board games are built for, especially in today's age, for like an experience that is 90 minutes to 2 hours, you gotta be able to put the game away. Whereas with computer games, without having that pressure, you get this whole different kind of set of expectations, different structure. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I think a critical element to a board games that really influences it is, generally speaking, you are playing a board game against a human, where that is very much not the expectation with most strategy games. Even though games like Civ have multiplayer modes, I think there's a quote from some developer about, I don't remember if it was about Civ 5 or about Civ 6, but it was like 95% of people never even enter a multiplayer game. Like,
that doesn't surprise me.
The assumption is that you are not playing against a human. In a board game, the assumption is that you are playing against other humans, and it's just not that fun to lose for that long. Like, the experience of the loser has to be taken into account in a board game way more than in a video game, where, like, especially if it's a game where people are assuming you're playing it single player, they probably are also assuming that if you're losing, you just quit immediately the second you start losing and you start over. So you spend effectively no time as the loser, and you don't have to worry about what a time that person is having. Anyway, Against the Storm. It's rad. It's rad, and I like this. I like this sort of like this fantasy take with the fantasy races and stuff. It's cool to have a bunch of like bird people and lizard people running around. And I appreciate that they chose kind of like unusual fantasy races too. Like your sort of like main workhorse is anthropomorphized beavers. Instead of going for like a dwarves and elves kind of thing,
Yeah. You know what I love? I love beavers. They're so cute. and industrious.
They are.
And
Very
then
cute.
now I'm thinking about Angry Beavers.
Also very cute.
I think they should reboot
Even though
Angry Beavers.
Daggett would probably be
my hot
upset
take.
to hear you describe him that way. Okay, here's a like a sort of a brilliant bolt out of the dark. Moons of Darsalon. Moons of Darsalon is a retro action platformer, but when they say retro, the thing they mean by retro is so much more retro than most things that say that. This is referring to like a very particular era of computer games that I think a lot of people probably do not have any specific memories of. And so it is not necessarily going to feel nostalgic in the direct way that some retro stuff does, but it definitely has that like feeling of stumbling across a thing from another era. It's goofy, it's weird. Absolutely all of its aspects are at a superlative level. I agree with that. This game is rad. Also, the guy who made it, Dr. Cucho, he seems nice. I had some interactions with him over email. He seems like a cool dude. But yeah, I had a blast playing this, and it's frustrating in some ways, and it's difficult in ways that don't always feel good. But I think that's just like an element of it having a sort of a really unusual style of play. And also, it's very true to the era. I am one of the people who remembers playing games from this era of computer games. And yeah, especially the vehicle stuff feels so weird and hacked in. It really feels like somebody like using a system to do things that system was never designed to be able to do. And that's fascinating. It has such a cool feeling to it. So yeah, I would recommend this for anyone who kind of likes a little. It's like a platforming action game. A lot of the game is about the platforming. A lot of the game is about like guiding like other people, other like lost astronauts to safety. So it has that sort of like not quite a Lemmings vibe, but you know, something that's like at least a little Lemmings adjacent. Yeah, this game is really rad, and it has a really rad art style. It expresses itself in a very cool way. The vehicle stuff is so goofy and weird. I'm so pleased that people are willing to just like take swings like this in this day and age. Yeah, Moons of Darsalon, absolutely game of the year material. I had a great time with this.
Okay, that's 9 games.
That's 9 games.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you before you do your last one. Okay?
Yeah.
And I don't... so one of my other game of the year for... maybe I should have... Okay, I have a last minute edition, so I have 2.
Okay.
But the one I had intended is the password game. For 23.
The password game.
The password game.
Can you be less specific?
It's called the password game. You had me play it on your channel.
Okay.
You can't.
I can do whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. It's my channel. How dare you? But yeah, okay. The password game. I remember it. Now I do.
Yeah, it was briefly viral last year, and I guess its virality has waned. But I thought, as a game about rules, the rules of the game changing and adapting, the way it kind of is a mischief, that really resonated with me. And I'm always, again, interested in games that are about rules, how we engage with them, how we learn a game, and that has that. And I still feel bad about overfeeding the chicken.
That's fair. Yeah, she's talking, of course, about the password game at neil.fun/password-game here, which is a game that asks you to choose a password and then mimicking the annoying experience that we've all had with some kind of online service who wants to pretend like they know things about cryptography, but who absolutely do not know anything about cryptography. it hits you with a series of more annoying and frustrating rules that do not make your password any more secure, but do make it more difficult for you to remember. Like, if my password was, say, oh, it has to include a number. All right. Oh, it's an uppercase letter. Well, my first name starts with an uppercase letter. A special character. Okay, we'll just tack one of those on the end. Oh, no, the digits in my password must add up to 25. Well, how about we do, some 9s and a 7 then? Oh, and it has to include a month of the year. Let's go January. That's the first one. A Roman numeral. How about a V? Password must include one of our sponsors. And so you can see how it continues to add difficulty, and eventually there are complicated timed elements, and you're looking things up on maps, and it is a very clever idea, and it's very much sort of in your wheelhouse.
Yeah,
which is to say that it's a sort of an aggressive game.
Stephanie says that for honest, the password game is kind of Amabel coded, and I don't know how to take that. It's not wrong.
She's absolutely right. Thank you.
No,
Thank you. Stephanie also says Sound is a special character. Thank you.
You are.
I appreciate
you
that.
are, yes. And then last minute addition, I'm going to pry bar in here.
Mm-hmm.
Plungeroo.
Oh, sure. Plungeroo is great. Did you see the update?
No, there was an update.
I don't remember if it is coming or if it's out already. Let me pull this up.
Yeah, because I'm still working. So I work on a puzzle every couple days. I'm parceling it out.
Yeah, I've been sort of slowly working it as well. This might be loud. Let me.
Good.
No, it's.
I can't hear it because I have the stream muted. So that's fine with me.
Okay, I have it not loudified. Let me.
Okay.
I'm trying to quickly. I was not aware that we were going to be putting Plunger on stream, so I'm very quickly moving things around over here. It's hard to do production live. This is why professionals get people for this kind of stuff. Okay, yeah. So Plungeroo, it's a game about making tiny little pinball puzzles. To give you just the very the simplest idea, if you're unfamiliar with it, here's the puzzles from the very beginning of the game. You gotta make the ball go in the hole, but it's not always so easy. Sometimes you have to assemble a set of bumpers or whatever to make the ball go in the hole. And they add all kinds of complications. There's buttons to fiddle with, and that kind of stuff. And yeah, it looks like they did in fact release an expansion to the game with a bunch of extra puzzles. There are extra worlds of puzzles.
Okay, cool.
Plungeroo 2.0 Galactic Pizza with 27 new puzzles and 3 worlds. They say it's the final update, but it brings the game up to approximately 100 puzzles, that's nice of them to give us more stuff for free. Yeah. Where am I? This is the puzzle I'm on right now, 7-8. This is the thing that I start up every once in a while here too. Oh yeah, so there's these bumpers which you can change their orientation, and they also change every time the ball hits them. And you can see you start to get groups of pieces that their orientation can be changed, but they can't be decoupled.
I'm still in World 6 right now, but I started after.
Take that ball. Yeah, got him. Anyway, yeah, this game is a delight. Yeah, Plungeroo is really rad. It's also, I think, pretty cheap. This game is $5. That is
for $5.
That is criminal. The poor developers. They should have. I mean, I know what you got to do to make money on Steam. I'm not criticizing anybody, but. This game is so.
You can charge more.
This game is so much worth your $5. There are almost no words for how much this game is worth your $5. Good call, Amabel. There are some really good video games. Did you know?
Yeah. And you've got one more.
I've got one more, and the sharp-eyed viewers already saw what it was, because it was in the password game thing. Because I had to go open up a video, because it's not a game that's on Steam. My last game. This is a weird thing. This is a thing I usually don't
Oh,
do.
so you got off a GOG.
My last game for 2000,
23.
2023. your brain froze me there. I apologize. Is this? I don't hope I'm not going to get demonetized. Actually, I'm not monetizing this stream anyway. Fuck them. Is Super Mario Wonder. A Mario game came out, and I thought it was extremely good and fun. My roommate owns a Switch, so I was able to play the Mario Wonder in co-op with my roommate, who is absolutely one of my best friends, and Amabel. We played 3-player through a lot of this. This game is just rad. It is so fun and inventive. I have strong feelings about a Mario. There's definitely like Mario nostalgia stuff works really well on me. I always had Nintendo consoles growing up. You know, we were a little poor. We were a little on the poor side, and I definitely was not like getting stuff when it came out. But my mom was able to get a secondhand Nintendo at a garage sale with just like a box of that person's games, and that was video gaming for me through the early part of my life. And yeah, so I have a lot of Mario nostalgia. Mario nostalgia stuff works really well on me, but this game is really not doing Mario nostalgia stuff. This game is doing good new, like Mario Odyssey. I was absolutely the target audience for Mario Odyssey, right?
Yeah.
But this game is doing a lot of interesting new stuff. It's using these this idea of these like wonder seeds that make the levels behave in strange and amazing ways. Where like the level will become an interactive musical, or you'll turn into a big pipe, or just like weird shit happens. And they came up with a lot of good ideas, and they did the Mario thing of like, have a cool idea, use it once, and then get out of there and don't do it again. Don't give people time to get tired of things. You know, what I often think of as the Kuribo's shoe approach. Yeah, and it's really good. If you have a Switch and you like platforming games, it's really good. It is a little on the easy side. There are definitely some challenge levels. It's pretty easy overall. And it has assist type modes. If you are playing with like young children, you can make it really easy. But yeah, it's just really good. It's fun to play a Nintendo game and really like love a Nintendo game.
I would love to play this with you and our roommate again.
Yeah, we did not finish it. We did not get to the end because coordinating 3 people for a thing while one of them is like buying a house and the other, it's like grown up stuff, right? Grown up stuff gets complicated.
Yeah,
but
yeah, no. This is maybe I'm gonna lean into a superlative here.
Hit it.
I think this is the best 2D Mario game since Super Mario Brothers 2.
Yeah, that's. I was agreeing with you all the way until you said since Super Mario Brothers 2. And I want everybody to understand that this might be a legitimately held opinion, but it is also a weapon that she uses against me. She just tells me over and over again that Super Mario 2 is the best Mario game because she knows I like Super Mario 3 and she wants to shit on my taste. This is the thing I deal with.
Super Mario 3 is
and when I say keeps doing it, I want everybody to understand daily. Like daily, she slides the fact that Mario 2 is the best Mario game into conversation in places where it absolutely doesn't fit. And everybody who watches our content knows that I'm telling the truth right now because they know how you are about Snill. They've all seen it. They've all seen it with their own eyes. It just finds its way into situations where it doesn't belong.
And to be clear, I want to clarify something.
This is what it means to do something snillfully.
I want to clarify something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean Mario 2 US.
Yes. Yeah. No.
Doki Doki Panic.
Everybody knows what you meant.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
How do you feel about this stream, sweetie?
I feel like it was a great way to convince myself to not do a bunch of work. I'm already feeling the getting away with something shame. That's a personal issue. Please don't worry about it. I will be fine. But it's good. It's good to clear stuff off of the Ibnu list, because that stuff, like, it does, as much as it's not like taking up active real estate on that back burner, it does accumulate shame over time. Every time I see it, and it's like, oh shit, I haven't done that yet. Still, it bothers me. It gets to me. So
yeah,
it's nice to have it out, and it's nice to have said the nice things about the video games. I hope that this got some people to check out some stuff that they didn't have time to, or had intended to get to and forgot about, or whatever. Yeah, there's lots of good video games. There's lots of good video games out there.
Yeah.
And I know my taste is a little idiosyncratic, is maybe the way we'll put it nicely. I have sort of a weird taste in video games. I know I don't like a lot of the things that a lot of people like, but I think that does give the list some value, as just like, nobody needs to tell you that Elden Ring is the kind of thing you will like if the kind of thing you like is Elden Ring, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't need any more voices in that particular choir. So I hope it is valuable that I am here to be like, hey, you should check out Moons of Darsalon. Yeah, anyway. Fun stuff. Game was fun. Yeah. Oh, Amabel, look what you've done.
What? What have I done?
Nothing. Don't worry about it.
Oh,
Nope, nah says in the chat, I think the stream was executed with great snail.
Oh, I mean, okay,
yeah.
Mario 2 is good, though.
I didn't say it wasn't.
Here's the thing, because you and I both grew up some degree of poor. I think you grew up with more poverty than I did. But
I grew up with a weird sort of intermittent poverty. Like, my mom has always been really struggling. My dad was an automotive engineer, but he was also a mean alcoholic. And so he would get a job, and we would have money for like a couple of weeks or a month. And then he would get fired from his job for being drunk at work, or being mean at work, or being mean and drunk at work. And then we would be broke again until like the power going off suddenly broke again, until he could find more work. And at a certain point, he had, made enough enemies within the industry. It was bad. It was real bad sometimes and okay other times.
Yeah, and like with my situation, my father was consistently employed, but my mother was I didn't. Nope. Actually, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, that's okay.
I didn't always have new clothes for long periods of time.
Yeah.
But when we got a Nintendo, it was after the Super Nintendo had come out, and
yeah, that was when I got mine too.
And the one game we had for it for the first while was Super Mario Brothers 2. So it.
Okay, look, I'm not trying to tell you.
Was the first Mario game I played.
I'm not trying to tell you can't love it.
So I imprinted on it.
Like a baby goose.
It's so much fun to throw vegetables. They need to bring Wart back.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm tired of Bowser.
I will.
Let me throw vegetables into that big frog's mouth.
I will never get tired of Bowser, but to be clear, I would rather play Bowser than fight Bowser. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. And you're allowed to love things. I'm not trying to tell you that you're wrong to love a thing.
And then there are some good 3D Mario games like Sunshine.
Hold on a second. I'm not defending you. Wait a second. I forgot what was happening. This is Darvo. The problem here isn't that you hold an opinion that I disagree with. The problem is that you use your opinion as a weapon. The problem is the way that I am getting bludgeoned. Hold on. No, that's fair. But Mario 2 is not bad. Doki Doki Panic is not a bad game. I don't want to like pretend like it is. Yeah, so when I got...
And Mario 3 is too long.
Mario 3 is not too long. It's only like 6 levels. Everybody just goes to the castle, gets the warp whistle, goes to 1-3, gets the warp whistle. I do think that's the way a lot of people play the game, which is a shame because I think some of the later worlds are really cool. World 7 has so much neat stuff in it. But since we're telling stories, I don't know how, to what degree I've ever told this story on camera before. But when my mom got that secondhand Nintendo, the only game console in my life prior to that was my grandma had managed to get a ColecoVision in trade because my grandma ran a dance studio for all of my youth, the Pat Sherrill Dance Studio. I doubt anybody's ever heard of it or been there, but if you have, please shout out in chat. She's rad. She's absolutely rad. My grandma was a super cool lady. She ran her own dance studio and she would accept barter. It's the sort of thing you could do when you run your own business. So somebody bartered her an old ColecoVision for some dance lessons for their kid. So we had a ColecoVision, and the ColecoVision is fine-ish as a video game console, but the controller is extremely badly designed. It has a major design flaw. I'm going to pull this up on the screen in a second here. ColecoVision controller. It has this really frustrating physical design. Let's fade this up. Where, like, I don't know if you can see the way the joystick is designed. First of all, it has a phone touchpad on it, which is weird. But this joystick, like, you would hold it with one hand under it, so like your thumb is on this button and your middle finger can hit that button, and then your other hand is manipulating this joystick. The joystick is raised up enough and rounded enough that it's very easy when you press it forward for your thumb to slip down and get caught underneath it as it snaps back into the neutral position. And what you can't see about this is the bottom of this thing is like open and ridged. And it hurt. It hurt a lot every single time it happened. This is a bad controller design. But so my mom got this second-hand NES with a box of 11 cartridges at a garage sale. And so I didn't have a Mario or like a Mega Man or anything. I had like these 11 beat-ass games, including... we had Spy Hunter. We had the infamous NES Top Gun game, which is impossible. It is impossible to land on the carrier. I refuse to believe that it could be done. And stuff like that. I had like 11 like weird kind of crummy NES games. That was my video game collection for a long time. So yeah, that's just a story that I'm telling for reasons I'm not even clear on.
Well, thank you for sharing it.
That was how I fell in love with video games. My aunt had an SNES. My cool the youngest of my mother's siblings.
Mm-hmm.
The youngest of my mother's 7 siblings had an SNES, and she would like have me over. We played through all of Super Mario World in co-op and stuff like that. That was rad. She was cool. It's cool to have a cool aunt. I wish that was a position I could have in someone's life, because I don't know, like, I shouldn't have a kid, but I should be available to help a kid get weird.
Yeah.
Anyway. Sorry. You were saying something.
No, I'm agreeing with you that you would be an amazing aunt. You have really good like kindergarten teacher energy, but like cool kindergarten teacher.
I certainly dress like Miss Frizzle. I get what you're saying. I think I
also wouldn't trust you to drive a bus.
There is definitely a part of me that wishes I had gone into teaching, and it was a thing that people said to me throughout high school a number of times. Was that I should become a teacher, but I wanted to get into the video game industry, which is a fantastic idea. So I tried that for a while. That didn't really work out. And then it turned out I was trans. And I'll tell you, I'm glad that I don't have to deal with the bullshit of being a teacher while trans in today's day and age.
Yes. We have a couple of friends who are...
Yeah, dodged a bullet on that one. That seems like a real nightmare. Anyway, I think that's the stream, right? I think we're good. I think we did
I think
it.
that's the stream.
I think we accomplished it. Ibnu's slain. I hope everybody had fun. I hope everybody learned about some games. I hope the developers of these games see this stream and feel good about the extremely great stuff that they made. I apologize if you were on the 2022 list and I said your game wasn't as good as Tunic. I'm sorry, but Tunic is very good.
But they have to know, right?
They probably played Tunic. They probably know, yeah. I don't know. It's all opinions. It's all opinions. I am legitimately feeling bad now.
No, don't feel bad. I get it.
Okay.
I do get it, but don't feel bad.
Okay, before I spin out too much harder, let's go ahead and end the thing. So thank you all so much for being here. The video output on the channel has been a little bit spotty the last couple of weeks because I think I said this in every series at some point. But just in case people weren't aware, I got an RSI in my shoulder. I tore my rotator cuff, I think. And it was very difficult to do things with my right arm, which is my primary arm for things. It is still not better, but it's getting better. It's like 80% better. And so I have been using my mouse again for the last couple of days. And I'm hoping to be back on track, back on schedule. Yeah, so thanks y'all. Have a good whatever is left of your weekend, and come back later for more stuff. Tomorrow there's gonna be stuff, and we'll see you then.